2, non-marine petitions for regulation change and non-regulatory requests from previous meetings. Erin, please.
Okay. Again, this is a standing agenda item for the Commission to act on regulatory petitions and non-regulatory requests from the public that are non-marine in nature. So for this meeting, there is action on petitions for regulation change received at our August meeting, as well as action on requests for non-regulatory requests received at the August meeting. Under this item, we also have a space for any updates on pending petitions that had been referred to staff or the department for review. We don't have any updates on that today, so I'll just focus on the first two items. Item A, action on petitions for regulation changes. You'll remember at our August meeting, you deferred action on petition 2016-008, which was related to the legalization of ferrets, to give staff time to review the supporting materials submitted by the petitioners. Those materials are provided as exhibits in your binder. As part of our review, Commission staff went ahead and prepared a memorandum for your consideration, which kind of outlines our review of those supporting materials, the regulatory change that's being proposed to you, and including our recommendations. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll just walk through some of the highlights from that. So petition 2016-008 requests the Commission amend Title 14, California Code of Regulations, Section 671, to remove any reference to domestic ferrets. I'd like to note that under 671, which is also referred to the restricted species list, ferrets are further designated as detrimental animals because they were determined to pose a threat to native wildlife, the agricultural interests of the states, or to public health and safety. So the report submitted by the petitioners did address those three areas and noted that there were some potentially significant impacts, especially to wildlife, that would need further review under an environmental document. Looking at the CEQA checklist, which kind of provides a summary of some of the items that have potentially significant impacts, the petitioners did note some potential mitigation measures that could be implemented that could reduce those potentially significant impacts to less than significant. But in looking at the issue, by taking the proposed action, that would effectively eliminate the Commission's authority to regulate ferrets, and therefore would not have the would not give you the ability to implement those identified mitigation measures. So given that, while we would normally conclude that a mitigated negative declaration would be okay, because you would not have the authority to do the mitigation, a full environmental impact report would need to be conducted to analyze any potentially significant impacts. If the Commission does decide to move forward with the development of that EIR, that same authority issue becomes a problem if the EIR identifies any potentially significant impacts. You would not have the authority to do the mitigation to reduce those impacts. And so the option at that point is what's called a statement of overriding consideration if you chose to move forward with the regulatory action. So with those considerations, that given that proposed action eliminates your authority to regulate it, the potentially significant impacts that were identified in the report that needed further analysis, and the potential significant impacts to our wildlife, which is already being stressed by numerous factors, and the unique biodiversity that exists in California, staff does not recommend removing ferrets from the list of restricted species at this time. However, if you would like to further evaluate those potential impacts through the preparation of an EIR, we would recommend that those be done as previously recommended, with funding, the development of the EIR being funded by the petitioners. This is a model that is used by other agencies, including the department, in some circumstances. However, I would note that in order to do that, we would need to develop regulations. And essentially how this works is the department contracts with a CEQA consultant and they have a regulation in place to do that, CEQA consultants that they have identified. And then the petitioner or project proponent pays that CEQA consultant to prepare the EIR on behalf of the department. So we would need to establish similar regulations in order to use that type of model. As a final note, there is another petition before you today, which is 2016-017, related to the legalization of hedgehogs. This would by removing it from 671. So you'll see that our recommendation is consistent with our recommendation on the ferrets, is to deny that petition because of the similar issues we've identified related to ferrets. Just to go back, there are two other petitions that you will be taking action on today. One is 2016-014, submitted by Douglas Alton, related to rehabilitation of falcons and raptors. The staff recommendation is to refer that to the WRC for consideration as part of the second phase that we talked about earlier today under the falcon item. And then a petition 2016-019 submitted by the National Rifle Association and the California Pistol and Rifle Association regarding to changing provisions within Section 401 related to the waste of game animals under a depredation permit. Our recommendation is to deny, as it is inconsistent with the intent of the depredation provisions. And then there are a number of non-regulatory requests in your packet with our staff recommendations.
Terrific. Thank you, Erin. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Mary, we call the speakers. How many do we have?
We have 6 speakers.
Okay.
Pat Wright, Dr. Richard Smith, Christine Smith, Kimberly Richard, and Mark Henley.
Come on up, please. As I've requested at other times, if there's multiple speakers on the same topic, and not necessarily repeat what everybody else has said, but you can just endorse what somebody before you has said, please.
LegalizeFerrets.org, and thank you for treating us as valued citizens of California, which is not how we were treated previously when we went in front of the commission many years ago. But anyway, this issue has been going on forever. I've been working on it for about 30 years. I would really love to retire and get a life. And I want to thank you. I think that the report that was done, the evaluation was very good, and it's very thorough. And I kind of understand the concerns, but you know, one thing is that there are no feral ferrets anywhere, and if anybody says otherwise, and no one's been able to document it, we would like to know about it. They're legal in 48 states, and there's no detrimental effects. It's not a problem for anybody. We understand your concern about effects on wildlife populations. And if we can help, we would be willing to do so, including funding the environmental impact report. We desperately want to move forward. It is interesting to note that you can issue permits for ferrets currently. They used to issue them up until 1986. We're going to ask for relief. I got an email just the other day. It says, "My landlord knew I had a pet and he was cool about it. But when he found out it was an illegal pet to have in California, he told me it wasn't okay. He told me to give the ferret away. He would give me a warning, and after the warning, he would lose his apartment." People are suffering a lot from the ferret ban. People can't get security clearances. I had one wife of a sheriff who had to give away her ferrets when her husband was promoted. I get those calls, and they're very tearful, and they're very hurtful. And there's no need to it. If you can give me any example of a ferret causing damage, we want to hear. So we are prepared to go forward. Like I said, it's been a 30-year investment in my life. We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over those 30 years. So please move forward, and we would like to get immediate relief and get the permits issued as you can do now with just a change in policy, not a change in law. Here's a couple thousand signatures of people asking you to move forward. Thank you very much. May I give you this?
Let's see here. Get my stuff. Okay. Hi, Commissioner. Kimberly Richard, Environmental and Wildlife Chair for the Democrats in Napa Valley. And I am going to have to disagree with staff on this issue. I am in support of the ferrets being removed from the species that on the banned wildlife list. Oops, hang on, I messed up. And I believe that ferrets should be allowed here in California, and they should not be illegal to own. If there's data out there that shows wild ferret colonies running amok in California, we would like to see the proof of that. And I believe, and I'm asking to not accept the recommendation from staff, and let's move forward on this issue, and let's remove the ban, or at least let's look at this further and not jump to a rash decision. And that way everyone will be able to get on the same page. And let's do right by the ferrets. They were accidentally removed on the list, or put on the list in 1930. And I think that mistake needs to be corrected. So maybe this is something that can be put on the agenda or looked at maybe next year a little bit further, study and analysis, besides just moving and not allowing the petition to go through whatsoever. So this is up to y'all's discretion, and why make the ferrets suffer? And the 250,000 people or more in the state of California, why should they have to give up their beloved pet because of a mistake that was made in 1930? This is not fair. And, you know, if other conservationists or hunters, you know, are concerned, well, ferrets get loose in the wild, what's going to happen? There's no study of that here in California, of ferrets being in the wild whatsoever. We have the fisher, which is part of the ferret family. If I'm correct on that, I'm not going to be quoted on that, but there is no known colonies of ferrets in the wild. So let's go ahead, let's look at this closer and not make a rash decision on not accepting the petition. Let's look at it a little closer. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Christine Smith. I'm an RVT in California. I've also worked with Legal, the only legal rescue in California, for the last 10 years. Last year has been more in medical. It's on its own side. Sorry. All right. And during my time with rescue, it's gotten to a hard point. We've destroyed families. The only times, I'm deviating, sorry. The only times that people, we confiscate ferrets, or we would go and aid in that, is when you may get a divorce from your spouse, and your spouse wants to see the kids, and you don't want them to see the kids. So he turns in the kids' pet ferrets, and then we have to go break up a home. Or your neighbor or landlord now finally has an issue with you. So now, all of a sudden, they've turned you in, and now you have lost what has been your emotional support animal, your family, your friend, everything. I've tried now for the last several hours, I cannot think of one case, other than maybe an abuse case or a hoarding case or something to that extent, that I have ever been a part of in which the ferret needed to be taken. And we're talking hundreds, thousands. I've at least been involved with a couple thousand over the years. And so getting back to some of my stuff real quick. I do have some papers here from 96, sorry, or 98. When the Asian water buffalo was removed from the prohibited species list, which was also a domestic pet that was accidentally put on the list, and it was just removed. There was at the positive findings of several state veterinarians, food and agriculture, a couple different health boards and whatnot that said it was okay, and it was done. Also, along with the Mina bird was another thing as well. So I'm just a little curious. There was no, EIR, no nothing like that. And the main concern with an EIR, I know I talk from a majority, at least some of the ferret people. The concern with that EIR is you're going to be taking what is the equivalent of your chihuahua, your kid's chihuahua, and throwing it out into the wild. And how many of those are you going to have to statistically do and let get killed and taken by hawks and eaten by other weasels, mink, anything? It is amazing what I have seen tear these guys up, and usually we don't get them. When we get them torn up and they're still alive, it is a miracle, because they're usually either dead or the day they get out, they walk up to a stranger. They go up to them, they stand on their leg, and they beg them to pick them up. And hopefully they know what it is, because they do believe that they're wild animals, because that's what we're told they are here. So they turn around and let them go again. Plus the people that are scared that they're going to get in trouble. So they will do the same thing. Can I have one more line?
Go ahead, please.
Along that line of being released or turning them around, hopefully you get somebody that picks them up. That's great. But some will turn around and let them go. Now you have the other people as well. When they talk about them being released and whatnot, they're released because they're scared of litigative actions. Sorry. They're scared to get in trouble. You get either the drug addicts, this, that, or the other, that leave them locked in an apartment, in a closet, in a cage, to die and chew on the other one if they want, which they don't know how to do. And it's just devastating the ways we see them thrown out into the wild and left in houses. If we could do a microchip program, and I do have some ideas with that, and I know I don't have time now, but I think that we could, with the numbers as high as they are, they're not as low as they are with some of the other exotics. We are at what would be considered like a crisis level with ferrets here, and we've managed to maintain it for years. But state and city and county would be a great way to go with it versus all of this. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Smith. I'm speaking on behalf of the general community of ferret owners in California, basically an underground organization. I graduated from the University of California School of Veterinary Medicine over 40 years ago. So I've been practicing medicine for 40 years, owning a hospital for 20 years, and the last 20 years I've been doing emergency medicine. I've been associated with ferrets for 8 years now. I can tell you, Christine told you what happens when they get out. I've had 2 get out, and within 24 hours they were killed by neighbors' dogs. I have one under my care right now who got out into the forest and was attacked by a fox. He's just holding on right now. So this is what happens to the pet ferrets. I'm going to do a little presentation, and basically it goes over the same thing that other people have spoken about. Did
No.
you get the presentation?
No.
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Because I emailed it.
Presentations need to be approved by me ahead of the meeting, and you did not receive.
I emailed it 3 weeks ago to Aaron, I think.
I did forward it to you, but it was over the allotted time, and we were waiting for the request for
It's very
additional
short.
time. And I did not see that request for additional time come through.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Do the presentation without the slides, please. You only have the 3-minute time limit.
Okay.
Because it wasn't.
Can I,
I'd like you to do the presentation without the slides, please.
without the slides?
Please, thank you.
Well, it's a PowerPoint presentation. Basically, it goes over everything that Mr. Wright has gone over. Ferrets have been illegal for 86 years here. 48 other states or 48 other states have legalized ferrets. There's never been an incident. Of the ferret products sold in the United States, food, bedding, accessories, 27% of the income of the United States originates from California. So basically 30% of all ferret products are bought in a state where ferrets are illegal. So I'm just asking that we reconsider this and move forward. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for the hearing today. I'm Kevin Pedrati. I represent the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council. PJAC is a national organization that represents all segments of the pet products sold in the United States. I spoke at the last hearing, and I just kind of wanted to reiterate some of the things that we talked about last time. One is that based on sales, national sales, we contend that 15 to 18% of all ferret products sold throughout the United States, 15 to 18% are sold in California. And using those figures, we calculate that means that there's at a minimum of 250,000 ferrets in California today. When we look at other figures, we figure that there's 20,000 ferrets that are sold outside of the state and brought into California on an annual basis. Given the fact that, there are 250,000 ferrets in the state, we'd like at least the commission to continue this and not deny the petition so that we can continue the discussion. As Mr. Wright said, we've been talking about this issue now for many, many years, and we'd like to bring it to a conclusion at some point. Thank you very much.
Hi there again. President Sklar, members of the Commission, Director Bonham, Mark Henley with California Waterfowl. Our organization has a long history with this issue. We have been opposed to ferret legalization from the start. There's been a lot of bills in the legislature, a lot of efforts before the Commission. We've been involved with pretty much all of those. As you know, exotic species in California, it's a huge problem. So why would we now possibly make it worse by introducing or legalizing a species that may go wild and have impacts on our native wildlife? Makes no sense at all. In New Zealand, ferrets have been a particular problem for ground nesting birds, waterfowl, their native wildlife, and it's gotten to such an extent that their officials there spend considerable amount of time and resources trying to control them. So other countries have had problems. In England, my understanding is there's feral populations, even in areas where they have red fox. So some folks have argued here, well, coyotes and other predators would take care of the ferrets, but that's not always necessarily the case. They can coexist in areas with other predators. So for those reasons, we hope that you will keep ferrets illegal. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? All right, thank you.
I'm sorry. Can I say one sentence?
You've already gone
Back
over
to
the
that?
time you
Okay.
had, and
All
you've
right.
spoken. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
So, commissioners, any questions or comments and discussion on these topics? So we have two options. We can pass the motion as proposed by the staff, accepting their recommendations in total, or make exceptions to that if anybody chooses.
I would go ahead and make a motion that the commission adopts the staff recommendations for actions on the August 2016 regulatory and non-regulatory requests.
Is there a second on that?
A second.
Motion made by Vice President Hosser-Carmison, seconded by Commissioner Silva. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Staff recommendations are adopted.